welcome back to my channel. So today I have another Sims 4 speed build for you, and I actually decided to do an apartment in Myshuno this time, and this is in particular 930 Medina Studios. So I always find that this apartment is kind of hard to work with. Like, I feel like it's very long on that one part, which makes it a little more tricky. So it did take me a minute to kind of figure out exactly what I wanted to do. So you can see me trying different things, and I actually still swap it up a little bit. It does kind of take this form, but my idea for this apartment was I wanted it to be two sisters, and as I was decorating, it became basically two famous sisters. So the idea is that there are two sisters living in this apartment. One of them is like an actress, and the other one is an artist. So it's a very glamorous apartment. It's not a cheap apartment. It is 97,000 simoleons, but I actually really like the way it turned out. So the sister that is the actress, like, her room is like yellow and pink, but like subtle, like not like super bright. That like yellow and pink makes me think of like pink lemonade, but it's not that intense. But she actually has her own closet area and like this glamorous bathroom with this like big like vanity that I created. So I didn't use one that's in the game, but I built it. It's not functional as a vanity, but I think it looked really cool because it was like built in with her cabinets in her bathroom. So you see that a little bit later. And basically I actually created almost like each sister has their own like wing. Like they have like a lobby to their like suite almost. Like each of them has their own bathroom and their like big bedroom. And then for, like I said, the actress, she has like a really awesome bathroom and closet area. And so I'm not sure if she's an actress, or maybe she could be like, isn't there a stylist career or something like that? That could also be a good option. And in her lobby, I actually end up creating this like wall with all these movie posters that I thought either maybe she acted in or she helped with or something like that. I guess she could also be like media production, like that would be pretty cool too. And along with like a bunch of trophies lined up. So like I'm thinking all the awards maybe she's gotten. And then the other one for the artist, like her lobby area is actually her studio. So I actually put in a bunch of like paintings, and there's a mural on the wall, so like I feel like that's where she works. And then she also has her own private bathroom, which I think turned out really well. I actually used some of the stuff from the Moroccan kit. I don't remember what it's called, but I used that really cool blue and yellow tile, which I think worked really well. And her bedroom ends up being like brighter and more like intense of a color palette, so a lot of blues and oranges, and I think it turned out really well. And actually when I was doing the actress's apartment, or the part of her apartment, I actually had a hard time with it. I think I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. You can see I'm kind of back and forth on stuff. This was probably the hardest part of the build for me, was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. And I always figured, like, I go in with an idea, but a lot of times it ends up shifting. And so like she actually ends up having this like living space, like living room area in her bedroom, which was really cool. And I think looked really awesome, especially since it was a longer room. Both of their bedrooms are long, and which I guess makes sense because it is in the longer part of this apartment. And then their living space ends up being the other side of the apartment, which has a kitchen, a full dining room, a really big living space, and also has another half bath. So there's 2.5 baths in this apartment and the 2 big bedrooms. So there's a lot of stuff for your Sims to do. They also have an office, which I'm really excited about because I actually split the office kind of down the middle, so they each kind of have their own half. So wherever they're doing their work, whatever it is. And so you'll see that later on. I think it's like the last thing I do in this build, but I thought that came out really nice, and I just pulled a lot of inspiration from their individual rooms as to how to decorate their half of the office. And as for the like main living space, I kind of pulled different things from each sister, so trying to combine their styles a little bit. And at this point I decided, yeah, I think this is gonna be a famous like sister apartment. And so I put that big poster on the wall. I'm thinking maybe like that's something she did, her big breakout role, or like if that was her big media production, like something like her big movie, whatever storyline you want to go with. And then you can kind of, and again, like if you download this off the gallery, you can do whatever you want to it. And it is already up on the gallery, so if you want to check that out and download it, my gallery ID is spicensprinkles, all lowercase, like no spaces or anything like that. And it's all there for you. I did, however, in order to upload it to the gallery, in case you're unfamiliar with the way Sims works, you can't like upload apartments, which is so strange to me because it like has apartments in the game. I mean, like it literally, these are apartments. Like I didn't just make it up. And so in order to actually upload it, you have to upload it as a room, which means like everything has to be considered the same room. So I had to take out a couple of wall segments so that it looks like all the same room. So if you do download this, you'll just have to put those walls back, and then you can move on with whatever you want to do with the apartment, redesigning it, playing with it, whatever. And so this is the actress sisters apart, the bathroom part. And so this is the big vanity that I created. I actually really like taking that shelf and sizing it up one. It works so well with the counters. Like the width works out really well. So combining it, whether putting it on top of the counters, like for like a makeshift countertop, or just putting it next to it as like a table area, I think it works really well. And again, like it's not functional as a vanity, but I think it was really appropriate. And I really wanted this bathroom to have this like really grand spa-like tub in terms of it like being on its own and like kind of just in the room, if that makes sense. And so this sister does not have a shower, and actually, funny enough, this one has exclusively a bathtub and the other sister has exclusively a shower. But I kind of had the bathtub just sitting in the middle of the room, like it felt really spa-like. And then I think that actually is from Spa Day, that particular bathtub, so I guess that kind of works out. And then I ended up just kind of creating like this wall space, like a serene space for her. And I do know that I just put a rug under a bathtub, which is not necessarily ideal. And obviously you cannot put a like rug under a bathtub, but I just felt like it looked really nice and luxurious that way. So, and I actually took out that plant, I believe, and try to keep it like more simple since it's supposed to be like this really calm, serene place. And so just adding some baskets of towels, and then like a little bit of a decoration, and that's it for this space. And then just adding in a curtain to this very tiny window. And there's another window like that on the way on the other side of the apartment, which is actually originally where I put the other sister. Like they had their own side of the apartment almost, because I was drawn to doing that because of that window and using it for the bathroom. But I ended up not, because it just didn't like, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. Like the living space started being a little weird. And at this point is when I was like, okay, the bathroom's not quite fitting the way I wanted to, so I start rearranging things a little bit. And then this is where I started developing this idea of having like almost a lobby for each sister. Originally, it was just supposed to be like a hallway that like was gonna lead to their bedrooms and everything. And it just, anyways, it works out, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And honestly, like this just does seem like a super fancy apartment that would be like in a big city. And I don't even want to know how expensive this would actually be, like in New York City or something like that. I feel like it would be incredibly expensive. And so I'm just adding a bunch of clutter, like again, this being her vanity, and then using that giant mirror. I did think about using that mirror that looks like a star that has all the light bulbs on it, because I felt like that's very glamorous, but I didn't like any of the colors that came with it, since I was doing all that light wood and light colors in there. So that's why I used, well, the mirror that I use all of the time. And I did take down this wall just so I could more easily see the closet space while I was building it. And this took me a minute to kind of figure out the layout I wanted. I think part of the issue was stuff wasn't fitting together super well. I think because that longer piece on the bottom is technically a TV console, so I don't think it like stacks quite as nicely. So I end up taking it out and adding in some of the other more closet-like pieces. But this is a pretty large and lots of storage like closet, and I think it worked out really well. And so I just kind of put a bunch of shoes in here, obviously her hanging clothes. and then just some extra clutter. And I don't know what it was about one of those shelves that like didn't want me to put anything in it. Like it literally, like the shoes would clip to it, like it wants to be there, and then it would say, no, you can't do that. You can't intersect other objects. And I was like, well, you put it there. But okay, whatever. So I've just been having a weird time with move objects, especially in apartments. I don't know. But I haven't figured out like what's quite going on with that yet. And so I actually ended up putting that pillow that just came with that camping pack for kids, and I feel like I want to use that pillow everywhere. I wish it had plain swatches, so like all the swatches are very designed, and a lot of them have like campy stuff on it, like trees and like I think like fire pits, stuff like that, s'mores, whatever. And I really wish they had like just plain swatches. I feel like I would use that pillow everywhere. But I figured the pink kind of matched what was going on, so just some extra stuff in her room. Some blankets and towels. Like to me, like the towels that I put in those, technically the gang calls them towels, but to me they look like a blanket. Like, especially since we have like the rolled up towels. So I feel like I use them both as towels and as blankets. So I feel like in this case, I feel like some of them are blankets and some of them are towels. And then just kind of putting back that wall. And why it deleted part of my closet when I put the wall back, no idea. None at all. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know why, but especially when you build walls and stuff, like it doesn't like it. I don't know what's going on, but let me know if you know what's going on or how to fix it, because honestly, it's very frustrating. Like it actually did some of that deleting when I went to go take screenshots. I noticed that in this particular bathroom, that around the sink, it had deleted, first of all, it deleted the right counter, and it deleted the clutter from the counters, and I think it might have even deleted the sink, because all of a sudden out of nowhere, I think it decided that like stuff was intersecting and didn't like it. So yeah, anyways, I ended up having to put some of the stuff back. I didn't get all the stuff back because it just kept yelling at me. So in the screenshots, it looks a little different, but it's basically the same. Obviously, it doesn't change the functionality. It just looks a little different. And so at this point, I'm trying to decide exactly what I want this like foyer area to look like for this sister. And I end up actually putting that like marble, I don't know what you want to call it. To me, it's like a shelf because I just put stuff on it. But I put it all along that long wall and then just put up a bunch of posters, and I put like lights above all of them. Like this is just where she keeps all of her like mementos and things like that. And I did have it going around the corner, but I believe I take that out because it was just like too much, and it like was clipping a little bit. And I end up pulling a bunch of trophies, and I wish like there were more trophies because I was trying not to use like duplicates. But you know, the other ones in the game are like toilets and things like that. Like I don't feel like are good awards. So I do just use some of the duplicates. I changed like use different swatches and things like that. And I did find, I used the scouting trophy. I figured, you know, it's a different trophy. It doesn't like, I mean, it is like, looks like flames, but I don't know, I figured it worked and it was fine. And then again, I thought about using that frame with the bulbs on it, but it just felt a little bit out of place. So I kind of didn't clutter up that portion right in front of her door. I thought about putting a rug and maybe a little table, but I just opted just to put some plants there. And then you can see like currently right now I have the other sister's bedroom on the left side, but we take that out because like I said, it just didn't, like after sitting there trying to think about how I wanted to set up then that like common area in the middle, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense, especially with the windows, since you can't move windows in these apartments that the Sims have, like in San Myshuno, and Eco Lifestyle also has apartments. Like you kind of have to work around them and make them work in your favor. And so I was trying to, again, being mindful of where the windows were, not cutting in half, like to make sure like the bedroom has space for that. And then I ended up, I wanted to almost have a closed off studio for this sister, but I ended up just making it like her whole entire lobby area is that. And you'll see a little bit later on, I actually go into the gallery, and in case you didn't know, you can actually pull like rooms. Like if you go and you click on rooms, sort by rooms, and you search like paintings, or I think I did abstract paintings. I felt like maybe that's the kind of painter she was. That you can actually like put it on your lot, and it literally is just a bunch of photos that are pictures that like other players have put in the game. Some of them are not necessarily part of the game, like they look like custom content, but technically what people end up doing is they put custom content in their game and then they have their Sims paint it. So then it just is a painting in the game, and that's no longer considered custom content. So you can also find different like new material to put in your Sims builds if you would like to do that. I think all the stuff that I ended up pulling, most of it looked pretty familiar, so like it was probably stuff that was in the game. And I did the same thing for the mural. So like in the studio space, I put like that tape stuff on the wall where your Sim could paint a mural, but it just felt very unfinished because there was nothing on it. So I actually did the same thing. I just searched on the gallery for the murals, downloaded a room that had one, and just put it on the wall. Of course, your Sim can paint over it and change it if you would like to use it, but it just felt more correct if it was actually done. So that's why I went in and found one for it. And I ended up using this bed. A lot of times I don't use it because it has such striking colors, but I thought like this would work really well for this sister. And also like the rug, it felt kind of abstract to me, like that speaks to the kind of artist she is. And then I ended up just pulling a lot of the orange, yellowy, blue, like some burgundy tones, and that's kind of what I went with. And then I created this like interesting art thing on the wall with all of those paintings, and then adding that mirror in the middle. And then like this sister doesn't have her own like off private like closet space like the other sister has, but this sister of course has the huge studio, so a little different, but I would say still like equal for them. And then I did end up adding also a TV in here as well. It is not as large as the one in the other bedroom, but I also figured there's one in the living room too. And oh my gosh, you can notice too that it's doing this weird thing with that window where it just like turns it into the wall. I think that's an issue with like move objects. If you use that cheat, it like fills in windows and doors with wall. And usually in a build, you can just click like grab it and like place it again and it undoes it. But since you can't actually adjust windows in the game for apartments, I couldn't do anything about it, so it just stays that way while I'm building because I didn't feel like getting out and going back in. That should also fix it. And then just giving her like her own living space in here too. Again, just a private space. There's so much room in this apartment. It's kind of crazy. And I end up wanting to put like some art on the wall. I want to say I left it blank because I didn't quite find a piece that I liked. Like, I liked the vibe or theme of those two pieces, but they just felt like the first one was just so big, and the other one just felt like, because it was so flat on the bottom, it felt like it should have been on the floor or against some other surface instead of just floating on the wall. And this is where we pull in the blue and yellow, so tying more into what was in the bedroom. And then I ended up creating this like small walk-in shower space, which I like to do. It feels very like luxurious to have. And then just putting like the mirror there, not the mirror, I know words today, the window, putting that there so you can kind of see in it. So it's like a glass wall. And then this actually is a very spacious bathroom, and I actually really liked the way it turned out. And for this one as well, I ended up using the mirrors. I think it's from Spa Day. I always forget if it's Get Famous or Spa Day, that has the lights all the way around it, and put those together so it's like glowing, which I thought was really cool looking. And then this one, we do put a plant in the corner. It just felt appropriate. I have, I think, plants, several of them in this sister's space. And then I didn't add like a ton of clutter in here either. Again, like I'm trying to be mindful of the weird thing that's happening with move objects, but like, cause you can see here I'm trying and it just keeps deleting the sink, and I don't know why. I used to do this all of the time. So I don't know if like the recent updates that's happened that it's just like, no thank you. So I just didn't worry about it. We'll just pretend that this sister has a toothbrush and soap in the drawer. And then just adding, again, one of my favorite objects are those like trays with candles or something in it with a great source of light. And I think it's really warm and inviting. And then I didn't use like a wall to separate the studio space. I just thought like it's just all there. And then that's the wall that I end up putting the mural on. And I also put an easel in there, and I have like some canvases lying around. I have those canvases that are there right now, but I was looking for the other ones. There is another set, but I had no clue what it was called. It took me forever to find. I find it way later while I was building, so I throw it in there later. So we'll be back in this room to fix that. And then I ended up like at the very beginning, like everything looked very blank. Like I put a blank canvas on the easel as well, like trying to make it look a little more like lived in, but it still wasn't quite right, if that makes sense. And then it hit me that I could just go find a wall of photos. So this is what I was talking about. Like literally people just upload these, and so you can just pull those off. So I just kind of put them all over the place. Like she's displaying all of her art. And of course, like if you play with this, you could sell all of it, like, so that's kind of realistic too. Trying to be like a famous artist, and then me looking for the murals and then finding that one and putting it on the wall. But the weird part is when I moved it, like I couldn't move it again. And I kept misplacing it somehow. Like, I don't know how I managed to do that. But anyway, so then just taking the room back out, and I think it looks so much more like lived in. And so I feel like I need to start doing that more often. And then the easel, I ended up putting a painting on it that almost looks like it has splatters or something on it. I think it's supposed to be a finished painting, but to me it kind of looked like maybe it was a painting in progress that she was working on. And I loved this lamp so much, but it is very large. We do end up using it in the living space. I don't remember if I left it in here or not. Like I said, I kind of went back and forth about stuff in this build a lot, and I love the addition of the paint cans on the ground. And at this point, like I kept looking, like I said, for those extra canvases, but I don't think they're called canvases in the game. And anyways, I finally found it, but later on, so it works out. And so I just put some lighting, like that's where she's displaying some of her art. And then I thought about putting like 2 murals on the wall, but it didn't let me like move it up the wall, so I ended up not doing that. And then I was kind of back and forth about what I wanted to do for that wall right there, because it just seemed very empty. So I do add a plant in there, but like I said, we come back, I believe, with the other canvases, and I think that looks really nice. And then at this point, I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want this to look like. So I create like a small lobby area to go into the 2 separate like living areas for the sisters, and then the office, and then the bathroom that we talked about earlier. And then the rest of the space ends up being the common living space, and I think it worked out much better that way. So I'm happy with that. And it was interesting trying to figure out what I wanted the common space to look like for these sisters, because they have different aesthetics. So I ended up going again with a lot of light wood tone, which is why I ended up with this. And then I actually pulled a lot on that cabinetry that has all those plates, the blue, like clay color, and yellow. I actually pulled a lot of that out, which I thought between the clay, it kind of looks pinkish, and the yellow that again was in the actress sisters part of the apartment, and then like the blue and yellow and orange from the other sister. And so just kind of pulling on that. We do put some art in the dining space, which I like to think of as maybe that's what the artist sister painted, so they have some of her stuff up. And I actually end up using the yellow wallpaper from the actress sisters part of the apartment to tie her in as well, because the colors seemed very like the artistic sister. But I think it looked really nice. And again, I didn't put I was pulling all this clutter, and I'm like, it's just gonna yell at me, it's not gonna like it. So I don't think I put a ton in here. And again, a ton of clutter for me it varies. I feel like a lot of other people don't have that much. Like my not much is a lot for other people. And then but I tried to keep it kind of simple and clean looking, but I thought, I actually don't usually put microwaves in my builds, which I think is kind of funny because I feel like that's a fairly normal thing, at least where I live, to have. And I wish we had microwaves that were part of the vent hood for stoves, because to me, I think that's also common, at least in my experience. They're more expensive that way, but I think it would be really cool to be able to do that. I don't even know if you could move objects that. There may be a mod or something to do that, but I have a feeling it's one of those items that has to be on a countertop. So there's certain things that can't be moved, like a coffee machine. I don't think you can really move on a countertop. And then I pulled in some more of that blue, burgundy, and yellow. And then for this painting on the wall, like I'm thinking maybe that the artist's sister painted the other sister maybe. And like, so they put that up in the apartment. And I feel like I always come up with these like stories and I think it just helps me decorate. And it is very frustrating if those two windows that almost meet in that corner, I think they're at different heights. Like why, or at least they look like they are, or they're like slightly different windows. Like why was it done that way? That is like, cause you're gonna have those two windows in the same room because they're right next to each other. So like why? But I just used those really long curtains from Dine Out because I felt like that was just very grand. Like they could just pull them shut, but still allowed for you to really see out. And look onto the city, and then pulling in the orange and blue again. I do swap stuff around in this living room a little bit. So I wanted to start with like separate couches, but I do actually end up using the sectional sofa that came with Dream Home Decorator for this space. And I think it worked out really well. Again, kind of going for that grand look. And this is actually a very large living space. Like there's a lot of couch. Like, I feel like when you make those sectionals, it just tends to have like a ton of room. And I was actually able to use that rounded piece in the corner, which I feel like I never get to use because I think my living spaces usually aren't this large. And so like it just takes up way too much room to use it. And I was really excited that I could actually use it. And I was back and forth too about like the kind of coffee table I wanted. I knew I wanted one, there was room for it. Since a lot of the coffee tables in this game are humongous, this room could actually accommodate it. And I originally tried to use the coffee table that reminded me of the dining table because, you know, I felt like that made sense, but there was just something off about it. Like it didn't feel quite right, if that makes sense. I don't know if you've ever had that happen if you're building The Sims and like it just, something's not quite right. Oh, and there I found the, I guess technically they're more pictures than canvases. Did find those, so put those in there. And then you see me trying a lot of things to get things to like look right, but it just still looked weird. I think the couches looked a little too rustic, maybe, if that makes sense. I like the idea of having one of the couches that had like blankets or pillows on them. So, but I ended up changing it out and I think this looked good with like, looks kind of like a tufted couch. And then I think swapping the curtains, not for the yellow, but for this like peachy color helped a lot too. So it wasn't clashing with the yellow couch as much. And then just putting in this simple coffee table that like came from Dream Home Decorator, which matched the chairs and stuff. So aesthetically it looked really nice. And then I ended up also putting a game console in here. I feel like I never do that, but I thought maybe that's something that maybe the sisters like to do together, or maybe that's how the actress sister, maybe that's how she got famous. Maybe she's actually like a gamer or something. I don't know. So there's space to do that. Each of them have their own computer in the office as well. And I feel like this space also has like a slightly retro vibe to it, which I actually really enjoyed. And then it was just so weird that I have all these like big doors and this like grand aesthetic in here. In the front door of this apartment is this like tiny dark brown door. Like I think it does like work well because I did put some darker tones around the door, but I wish that's something we could change. And again, like I know that realistically, like in an apartment, you don't change the doors, you can't change the windows, like that makes a lot of sense. But like honestly, you can't really, like that's hard to do in a normal house too. Like you don't usually move windows on a home. I mean, you might change them out for better windows or different windows, but moving them I feel like is not as common. And like I know that you can change out a door. I think that's a little bit easier than windows, but changing the size and stuff I know is a little bit harder. So I don't know. It just, I wish we had the ability, or at least I would rather be able to change the door maybe than change the windows, because that to me is hard to get around when I'm building, because I have this in my mind and then trying to fit it in can be a little bit difficult. And so I kind of quickly just went through that half bath space and just kind of pulling in the colors. And I mean, I think it looked good. It's just a half bath. It's nothing like totally insane. And then this is just like a table that I put in the little foyer area. And actually at the end of this video, we have screenshots, and I love the screenshot of like looking down this hallway. I thought it looked so cool. I feel like there's always like, when I take screenshots, there's some that I'm just like, this is gorgeous. And that's one of my like favorite screenshots, like I think that I've had. And this is like, I decided to divide it a little bit. And so each sister has their own space, pulling in their colors and the chair that's already there. I didn't want to put like 2 large walls, so I put like a half wall space there, and each of them have their own like bookcase storage area for them. And I ended up putting storage above their desks as well, and then pulling in their own colors, but they have the same rug, just different colors. And I end up actually on the actress sister side, I put like the lit up sign from Dine Out, which I thought, I don't know, maybe that's her brand or something. Like it just felt correct, if that makes sense. So I end up just adding a little bit of clutter. I think I put some artwork on the wall for the artist sister as well. And I think it turned out really nicely. And on that topic, if you have any ideas for builds, let me know down below. I love to hear more ideas, get the creative juices flowing, and be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you've enjoyed this build, I would really appreciate it if you would do that. That also gives me feedback that you are enjoying it if you are watching it. And I guess on that note, I hope you have a really sweet day. Bye, everybody.